So we'll continue to let people in, but we'll get started. Hello everyone. Lovely to see you all today. Today we're joined by Dr. Tamina Zebin, who is a senior lecturer in computer science and AI at Brunel University, London, and a member of the Intelligent Data Analytics Research Group. And today we've got the first of 2 days, our 2-day workshop on AI for professional writing. If I could ask you to put your mics on mute while Dr. Tamina Zebin goes through the first part of the session, there'll be opportunities for questions, and any questions you want to ask during the course of the workshop while Tamina is talking, please do use the chat. Chat was fantastic last weekend as well. So with that, I'm going to put myself on mute and pass you over to Tamina.
Okay, so hello everyone. Rachel said I'm Dr. Tahmina Zabin. So I'm a lecturer in computer science and AI in University of Brunel. So welcome to this session on AI for professional writing. And I am assuming because you joined the course, you know about most of the generative tools of current times, such as ChatGPT. Google has a comparable counterpart called Gemini. And Anthropic has a new tool called Claude, which is currently trying to surpass the performance of GPT-4 and the Gemini counterpart from Google. So in the space of professional writing, these tools are capable of creating contents of almost any type. But as we are talking about professional writing, things out from the AI needs a lot of editing in terms of how we are generating our content before we could use it in our professional capacity. So I would try to cover a number of things today. So on day one, my target is to use AI tools, available AI tools for fact-based fields first. So we'd be planning and writing for academic research. Depending on that, all of you that are joining today probably has an MSc or a specific level of degree from the UK. Writing for academia would be a useful part of your career at some point. Then I would move on to some of the business writing aspects of professional writing. So I would show you how to put together business plans and hints for tailoring proposals for funding applications for today. On day two, I would also show you some stuff on legal writing where we would show that AI could do decent job and preparation for cases. I'd show a brief example for journalism use cases where you could do your background research for putting together factual news reports and other sort. I do have a fun example on creative writing where we would show that how you can tailor AI to produce fiction and content for entertainment. And because I was doing a webinar last week, we covered quite a bit of content creation and social media posting. So I did cover bits and pieces from there for it as an additional content for business writing, where I would show customer support email writing for different application areas, creating product description, websites, blog items to finish the webinar tomorrow. So the tools that we would be using for this week are ChatGPT's Plus version, just because we are mentioning that we want things at a professional level. The free version of ChatGPT could do a decent job, but it requires quite a bit of prompt engineering. But I thought let's show you the capacity of the Plus, which requires a $20 subscription every month, but I subscribed it last weekend. So I thought let's show what those set of things are available, what sort of capacity is available on the Plus version. And we, as a regular user, use Microsoft Word, or some of you also use Grammarly. AI tools are integrated on the back end of this software nowadays, so I will show you some features from these platforms. Some initial housekeeping is I have created a Microsoft form, so I want to know where you are joining us from. So if you could use the link from the chat, or if you could scan the QR code, fill in this for specific questions. It would be quite useful for us later on. So Rachel, probably paste a link to the chat, and if you, while I'm introducing the session, if you could fill this up, and that would be great. Few other things. If you're joining the session from last week, you probably have account on some of these platforms already. And I'm assuming ChatGPT is a platform most of the people has used. So if you don't have an account, please create one if you want to try out some examples with me. I would also like you to create an account on Claude, which is a slightly newer version of the large language models with quite large amount of capacity. And Gemini's link would be available in here. The content for the session, I made them available on a Google Drive, so you get access to a PDF to the slides, also the PowerPoint of the slides, because I do have some YouTube videos embedded in some of the slides which may not work from the PDF version. So I made them available on the Google Drive. So if Rachel could paste them on the chat, people can get access to the slides straight away. And I would give you a 10 minutes break, approximately halfway through the slides, and join from a laptop if possible, because my slides are probably not suitable for viewing from a mobile phone. Your microphone should be switched off during the session. You could post your questions on the chat as they come along. I'll try to take them every now and then. And if you can't turn on your videos, you keep it on. No problem. Thank you. So let's move on to our introductory slide, where I would like to start with the fact that because we do have lots of powerful AI tools nowadays, let's begin with what benefits they can bring onto the professional writing space. So these are quite transformative technologies, and people are not writing the way they would write, and let's say 2 years before these tools were available to people at a wider level. So ChatGPT kind of gave access to an AI tool to everybody that has access to internet, which democratizes the space in a way that everybody can interact with an AI, knowing it's working or not knowing it's working, but they have access to the AI tools that they can ask questions to. So the first advantage AI is bringing is in terms of productivity. So you can ask it to generate almost anything. So in a ChatGPT interface, if you write that, okay, give me a draft for, let's say, a data management plan for a big data that you are handling, it would be able to identify the bits and pieces that you may need in such draft. And currently, some of the AI tools also have the capability to take in large amount of text and summarize them quite quickly. So if you would do something, prepare something that would take few days previously, you could probably put together the initial draft in few hours if you know how to ask the question in the right manner to the AI tools. The second advantage that we are seeing is in terms of, I would say, efficiency. So AI can automate quite a bit of proofreading, and that could streamline your writing process, and it would reduce your time spent on that you spent on revisions, and you can focus that remaining time in more efficiently in a content creation cycle, where it requires a lot more time in thinking. And you could, once you've done the thinking, you could delegate the task to the AI to produce a decent draft for you, then you can rework on that. In terms of creativity, AI tools can give you wide varieties of ideas on different topics because these are generative models. They are trained on almost most of the things that are available on the internet, Wikipedia, lots of books, and other relevant sources that are available in digital format. And they can produce things in a structured manner. So if you want a template for a form, and if you want something in a specific style, the tools are able to create most of those things. And if you're a creative person and experiencing a writer's block, AI tools are nowadays able to move you forward by giving you, okay, I'm stuck on this. Can you suggest me 10 other ways of, let's say, progressing a story? So those are the things that are coming as a benefit in the space if you have access to AI tools for writing. A little bit of history in terms of what sort of automation we are experiencing over the years. So the very first sort of automation we saw was from the Microsoft Word tools, when we saw that spell checkers came in to identify misspelled word when we're typing content in a digital platform. So uh, for people whose first language is not English, this tool came as a quite handy tool. The next progression in the space was grammar checkers, and tools like Grammarly started as a basic grammar checking tool, where it would also offer you some suggestions on how could you improve your sentence construction. And in the professional writing space, I would say Microsoft Word and the Grammarly are probably the key players that try to bring useful automated correction tools for our writing. As we are moving on to a more modernized version of computational advancement, there are tools that are now able to modify your style or whatever you have written. It could do tone analysis. So in Grammarly, what if you paste a specific paragraph, it could tell you that, okay, whatever you have written is sounding casual, neutral, or formal, or depending on the tone, it can also identify whether the thing that you have written, section you have written, whether that are personable, confident, engaging, witty, or direct. It can also support you in terms of what zone you're writing things for. So let's say if I say that, okay, I wrote analyzer here with a Z, but if you are writing in the British English, you would see that the analyzer is being written as a SER, then analyzer. So depending on the progress on integration of AI tools, we now have a lot of things that we can do with the AI tools. So on smartphone, when you're writing nowadays, there are AI-driven text editors that could autocomplete what you're trying to write. On computer-based platforms, let's say if you're writing things on Google Docs, there are some smart compose thing which would predict the text that you're trying to write to speed up the writing process that you have. And beyond simple suggestions, because we do have very large language models with lots of billions of parameters in them, they can now deal with a lot more input text to give you, let's say, any sort of output from them. And the example of those tools are coming from the OpenAI's GPT series, which is a generative pre-trained transformer, Gemini, Claude, Llama from the Meta or Facebook group. They are being integrated in various platforms, which are enabling the generation of context, a coherent, contextually relevant context. And the output that they are able to produce are completely, let's say, fine-tunable by what the user is writing. And it is revolutionizing the space in terms of how quickly you could develop drafts for various things. I mentioned about some of the open source generative transformer models names. So I say Gemini, Claude, or ChatGPT. So these are coming under the big umbrella term of generative AI. And this is the type of artificial intelligence models that are able to create new content based on the training data. And the architecture type that they are using are neural networks or deep learning technologies. They have generative adversarial networks, autoencoder or transformer-based architecture working on their backend. So with neural network, if you attended last week, I discussed about that neural networks are inspired by the functional block of human brain, which is neuron, and it can take input from multiple domains. So as humans, our eyes are our video input, our ears are our audio input, and we do have touch sensor on our skin, and we do have, let's say, smell sensor on our nose and that sort. So we take in various sorts of input. Our brain combines the knowledge coming from diverse source of information, and then it activates something. So let's say if I touch something hot, my eyes would either see it, my skin would feel it, then a trigger would be sent to my hand. Okay, move away your hand. It's not something that you're supposed to do. So neural networks are mathematically designed to function in a way to take in inputs from various sources and then combine them effectively to produce the output. And the term generative AI is applicable to any form. So if you're, let's say, producing images or videos, generative AI models are available on the space. For the writing space or design space, there are different types of generative AIs available. But for writing, where your main source of, let's say, outputs are text, we do have a different family of models that are dealing with languages only. And the models that we are using on the back end of those are large language models. And these models are trained on very large, as I said, corpus of data coming from various sources such as Wikipedia, digital books, and other digital contents. They are focusing mostly on language understanding and generation, and they are using sophisticated natural language processing techniques to segment out the big amount of text and find out the useful syntaxes, punctuation, and necessary aspects of language development. And you would see their uses in language translation or content creation space quite a lot. And because we are able to develop such models, we could develop, let's say, given the user prompt, these models are able to output almost any sort of content out of those. So if I briefly touch on how large language models work, they are on the back end using statistical pattern recognition. So similar sorts of words would be grouped in a cluster. So let's say some colors, if you know that there are different types of colors in the vector space of a language model, the colors would be sitting on a specific cluster. Or if you're talking about symptoms of a disease, you may see that when the models are built, similar sorts of words are similar patterns of words are grouped together and encoded in some form. And these are, we talked about neural networks already. So these are specific kinds of neural networks called transformer models. And they are they are being trained to understand what comes. So if you input, let's say, my favorite color, and if you give a blank space, would you be able to put together probabilistically that, okay, your favorite color could be red, blue, or whatever. And the probability of what your favorite color could be can be modified by the context that you provided in terms of what you are writing to the input. And these models are using mathematical technique called self-attention. So if you are writing a long sentence, it would be able to focus its interest on the most important aspect of the sentence and would be able to give you a suitable output from it. So LLMs are outputting the next likely word called token. So it may be quite useful to know what tokenization is. So in natural language processing, computer models usually do not understand text. So what it does, if you're inputting a sentence to the model, it would take in the sentence and break it down to tokens first, or manageable words. And there is a vector space for the words, which is converting those words into a specific number that the computational models are able to process. So LLMs output the next likely word or token, and token is a unit of text. With large language models, where the language models are pretty big, they are using billions of parameters to store different, like a large, massive amount of information within them. And these models are able to deal with a large context. And we use a term called window of text, like how big of a text it can process together. So that context window is pretty important for the models that we have available in our hand. So ChatGPT's free version could handle 4096 token altogether. So if you have pasted a large amount of text with, let's say, 4096 word, until then it would be able to answer follow-up questions on the chat. But after that limit is reached, you will see that you may need to remind it what your previous context was before it starts giving, let's say, irrelevant information out to you. GPT-4, which is a paid version of ChatGPT. So ChatGPT Plus is using GPT-4 on the back end. And it has, depending on how much money you're paying, it can give you, let's say, 8,000 tokens to 128,000 tokens. And that's a quite large amount of data that you can continuously process by the model. So Claude 3, which is a model released by a company called Anthropic. And this is probably the one with the largest amount of memory element associated to it. So it can handle 200K of tokens together. And because it can handle a large amount of token, you would see that it has a functionality of uploading PDF files. So if you upload 7-8 page of PDF document, these models are capable of analyzing that large amount of text and provide you summary or context about it. So some of the recent generative models, we talked about ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini. We talked about the tokens already. Gemini is the Google's version of the language model, offering for the language model. It can deal with 32,000 words altogether with its free interface. Different models have different strengths. So ChatGPT could produce any sort of content because of its wide knowledge base. And because OpenAI released the platform as an open access to people, it is being more adapted than any other platform that you know. Claude 3 has nuanced understanding of the complex query, and I think the best feature of it is its longer memory window, and it has a superior optical character reading functionality. So if you're uploading a scanned document, it can also process that type of information and give you summary of things. With Claude 3, most of the models can handle multiple languages, but Claude and Gemini is probably doing much better job in other languages than ChatGPT itself. And Claude 3 also included some safety aspects. So it's not outputting any harmful content. So there are more guardrail provided in their model design than the other two platforms at the moment. So with ChatGPT, it is doing good job in many spaces, but with scanned document, it's still not doing good enough compared to Claude 3. Claude 3's subscription cost is higher than the subscription paid version for ChatGPT or Gemini. So that's a disadvantage for Claude, but because they need more computational power to process longer documents, and so they're charging more than the other two counterparts. With Gemini, they got into hot waters by, let's say, publishing a racially diverse Nazi picture. They are currently, they have limited public accessibility at the moment, and its context window is slightly smaller compared to Claude 3. So let's move on to the demonstration aspect of today. So that section that I covered is mostly about what sort of tools are available in the space. And we would try out 3 of the main players today. And before we play around with the language models, the primary bit is important bit is how to formulate your prompt. So prompt is the input, that initial input that you're typing into the conversational interface of an AI assistant to instruct it what you want it to do. So prompt engineering is a term the language model users are using nowadays for the creation of the prompt that is carefully engineered to provide an optimal instruction and context to the LLM. And factors like tone, point of view, and conversational style help what you are seeing as an output from the language models. So some of the simple prompt starters, even if nobody teaches you, we could definitely know that, okay, you can type in anything to the input to the chat windows that you have available. And some of create me a template for something, or let's say construct an outline for this podcast. Or I'm a teacher, I could ask it that created me a lesson plan for something. Or if you're a news editor or something, or if you're trying to find out a title for a course or title for a book, you could say that, okay, compose me 5 headlines and so on. Or you could ask it, okay, compose me a polite decline response to an email. So these are the simple prompt starters, or you could ask it to brainstorm 10 ideas about something. So anybody, even if you don't know anything about prompt engineering, you'd be able to ask a question to the GPT, but the type of output can be modified or improved if you ask the question in a specific manner. So let's say if we try out a specific prompt first and see how we could improve these prompts. I have a prompt given to you here, which is personal to me. So I was using it as an example to create a 4-day summer school on data science for 14 to 16-year-old girls in the UK. And we want to try what 3 different platforms of, let's say, AI assistant give us as output. Yeah. So in the next slide, I do have a screenshot of what ChatGPT has given us, what a Claude as an interface has given me, or what Gemini could give me. So let me quickly pop onto my browser and show you what the outputs are looking like. Oop. I have not shared my window yet. Okay. So I do have first one that I want to try out is the Google's Gemini model. So I have taken it from my slide. Okay, create a plan for running a 4-day summer school on data science for 14 to 16-year-old girls in the UK. So if you have gone to the browser and if you have all the 3 AI assistants open to you, you can type in anything that you want. But for my example, I'm showing that what various platforms are displaying it for me. So currently this prompt is producing what should be done in 4 days, types of activities, examples, assessments, visualization, storytelling, and that sort of thing. So if I tell it, present it in a compact table, so you'll be able to output me those specific things in a succinct summary tables. With Gemini, you could also export them to sheets, which you could use at a quick plan for something. But you as a designer of a session would definitely modify if the activities that they are suggesting are feasible, or as a trainer, you would know that what you could do better on things, so you could modify on this initial draft and move on. So Claude is the interface. As I said, because it has a very long context window, it allows you to upload files in terms of what you wanted to analyze on. So currently I'm pasting create a plan for running a 4-day summer school on data science, and it is giving me similar sorts of activity, I would say. And if I say that, okay, when it produces, present this in compact table to show, give you a more quicker version of what are the things that it produced. So in this case, you would see that Gemini did not provide me in terms of, let's say, what sort of assessment that it gave me topic, activities, examples, and assessment. And the type of assessment could be suitable for you, on which you could work on and probably move on. Okay, so the third interface we have is the ChatGPT's free version, which is ChatGPT 3.5. I do have a paid version with me today. So GPT-4 is the version that you get access to when you uh, pay for the ChatGPT Plus version. So if we paste the same instruction, okay, have detected unusual activity. But ChatGPT is a platform where you could very easily get access to. Currently, I don't know, because I'm trying the interface from two other interfaces together. I think it may be complaining because of that. Let me retry. Okay. So currently ChatGPT is producing similar sort of thing, depending on, it's also breaking me down in terms of, let's say, what interactive presentation could be done and what sort of activities could be included in the session and so on. So the reason for me showing all the three different platforms is to show you the similarity of the types of output. I think most of the models are trained on similar sort of data. And let me stop producing for this one. And the important thing to know about any of these platforms are, let's say, the knowledge base that you are using it for. So if I ask ChatGPT when are you last trained on, you would know that what sort of knowledge base it has access to. Currently, because I'm using ChatGPT 4, it is saying I was last trained on information up to April 2023. So it's probably almost, let's say, 8-9 months behind of the current world. So when you are using it for a fact-based field, you need to know this information, that it doesn't have access to all the data or recent up-to-date data for specific points. Okay. And let me come back to my slides. And so some useful things to provide when you're prompting is, I say that create me an outline for a summer school. But because ChatGPT is trained on data from different domains, so it may have some financial knowledge, it may have some knowledge from the medical field, some knowledge from the legal field, and so on. You could fine-tune your query by asking it to look into specific types of data only. So first thing that you could tell the AI assistant, whichever platform you're using, to define it at a role that what you want it to work as. So you can tell it, okay, you're a talented copywriter with 20 years of experience. So if you tell it what you want it to act like, the type of data sources that you would use would only be coming from those, let's say, somebody with a 20-year of experience. If it has access to content from that level of expertise, it will look into those sources first before divulging into many other sources that it has access to. You also need to be very specific about what you want the AI assistant to do, including context and detailed instruction. So if you can tell it, okay, I want you to write an essay. So providing what you want it to write would also help it to produce the right set of context. You can also provide it some sort of example to provide it a better direction, such as, let's say, if you want it to create some sort of headline, or if you want a specific tone of voice that to be used in the text that it is outputting, you can provide, okay, this is the sample of something from something that I know, I want you to produce something in the similar style and tone. And once your prompt is created, you can do some adjustments in terms of, okay, so previously when I asked it to produce an outline for the summer school, I didn't want to read the 1 or 2 pages of points that it wrote because of the time limit that I have. I told it to produce it in a table, which is quicker to see and access. So you could refine your prompt by saying, okay, don't use bullet points, or provide me the output in a table. And the type of output, you can also tell that, okay, like currently when I provided a query to the AI assistant, it was producing me, let's say, 2-page long document. You could limit the response by saying, okay, I don't want that long of a document. I want a 500-word article with a headline and conclusion. So you can tell it what to output. There are a few other extra things that you can include in your prompting. Okay, let's say if you have asked 10 different questions and now you want to ask something new, you can say that ignore everything before this prompt, or ask me questions before you answer. Or if it has produced an output, you can also ask it to explain your thinking to enhance the response quality. So some of the effective prompt revisions, we were talking about, okay, the output that it gave, you may want it to produce a specific type of content. So the activities that it proposed for me as a let's say for the 4-day webinar, if I don't like any of the activities that I provided, I could ask it to come up with more uncommon activities. So if something is very common, you can ask it to come up with novel and uncommon results. I already told it to put things in a table, or put this in a tabular format. Or if you don't like the style that it produced the output in, you can tell it to rewrite it to be more formal, informal. You can tell it to, let's say you have written something already, you can tell it to fix the grammar, or if you want it to change some of the words that it is using, you can ask it to find and replace those specific terms. So I do have a list for you on this slide where you could get an idea about like what sort of revisions that you can use. And the revisions are very useful because, as I mentioned, that all of these platforms have some sort of memory capacity. With longer or shorter, it can effectively retain contextual information, or if you're asking follow-up questions, it would be able to trace what you have asked before. So that was all about how to formulate your prompts. So let's move on to your very first case study on how to use, let's say, AI tools ethically in the research. So some of the use cases in research could be if I want to use it as an interactive assistant to find me things when I'm researching on various topics. You can use it to summarize lengthy text. You can use it to, let's say, as I say, Claude is a platform where you could upload a file and tell it to analyze what's in there. So you can tell it to pull out the key points. You can ask it to find relevant information, citations from its training data. You can put, let's say, you can tell it to put various information in multiple combinations. One of the examples for putting information together in multiple ways could be, let's say, you're writing a content for the perspective of a teacher. You can modify the same content from the perspective of a student, so you can shift the perspective in which you are writing things. So ChatGPT Plus could do, so which is a paid version of ChatGPT, it can do data analysis for you nowadays. So you can use them to analyze results or synthesize findings, which is, I am not recommending the feature from ChatGPT Plus yet. I tried it over the weekend and it fails oftentimes. So you need to use the tool with quite a bit of care in terms of whether it's producing reasonable and feasible outputs. You can also summarize whatever you have done to communicatable format, which is easy to read, let's say accessible to the users and so on. And in research, because I'm saying like we are I'm going to show you how to ethically use AI to, let's say, speed up the research process you do for academic research. So what are some of the allowed user ethical use? So one would be augmenting your literature review. So you can ask AI to identify relevant paper for your topic area. You could tell it to, like, if you provide it with a link to a recent paper, you can tell it to review specific portions of that text. You can tell it to summarize the content, or you could also tell it to, let's say, do a comparative table of multiple techniques. But the final point in here, because AI tools are generative tools, they are not designed to give you factual information. So they're creating content, but they are probably not creating truthful content all the time. So if you use AI to, let's say, summarize multiple literature, creating a section, you need to look into the summary, go to the original paper to make sure whatever summary it is creating is coming from the original source in the truthful manner. Yeah. Second thing that you could do is, let's say you have written a section, you can utilize AI on your initial drafts to do grammar correction, or you can ask it to give you constructive feedback in terms of you want it to critically evaluate it, revise the content to maintain the original voice and integrity that you had. So you can use it for rewriting and editing. You can also use it ethically to stylize your text. So let's say if you're submitting, you have written it in one format, you want to adapt the writing for another format. It could be ethically used for, let's say, to modify one style to another. Or let's say you have written a result for academic journal paper, which is, let's say, adhering to the academic writing standard, but you want to present the same idea to a layman audience as part of an outreach activity. So you can tell it to write it in a layman's language so that it's understandable to them. You can use it for data analysis, but as I said, you need to check whether things are being dealt with properly by the AI tools. I don't think they are letting you do very large data analysis at the moment. It failed probably 3-4 times over the weekend when I was trying on larger data sets. But when you are using AI, it's ethical to mention that you have used AI tools. Yeah. And that will ensure that, okay, you have used a process to speed up your analysis and that sort. And that's an important part of, let's say, if you're using AI tools, they definitely need to say that we have used these tools. So as a programmer, when you're writing research paper, you would say that I've used this library from Python, that library from Python. You then have to mention if you have used AI tools for data analysis. You mentioned, okay, ChatGPT's data analysis platform has been used to do that data analysis. So there's nothing wrong with that, but you definitely, as an ethical part of reporting, or let's say truthful reporting of what you have done, you definitely need to credit the use of AI tools. And in case you are processing the data from, let's say, various participants and you are using AI tools, currently the landscape is so that whatever new data you are inputting to their interfaces, they're reusing it to train their models or make their models better. So don't put anything confidential that you don't want to be used in their training process in ChatGPT. So that's the privacy aspect of it that you need to be very careful about when you are using AI tools. Yeah. So in case you're planning to use AI that has, let's say, participant data, you definitely need to take a consent from people in terms of where you are going to use AI tools on. Yeah. So I said I will show you ChatGPT's Plus version for displaying what AI tools are capable of. But in case you have access to the free version, you want the free version to work as a specific, let's say if your search is for a specific domain. So if you're a biologist or if you're a historian or I'm a data scientist, you can ask it to say, in the free version, you definitely need to say, I want you to act as a data scientist or whatever you want it to focus on. You tell at the beginning that, okay, I want you to act as this, so that you can get slightly more better results than its usual output. So the type of roles that ChatGPT can act as, or it has enough data, access to enough data on the back end. It could be an advisor, coach, writer, storyteller, teacher, customer support, salesperson, engineer, financial advisor. Some of the types of tone that ChatGPT can handle is if you want informative content, if you want to persuade someone, there is a persuasive tone that you can use. And there is a kind of full list what you can make it act as. And in terms of task, you can tell it to produce an essay, report, email, blog post. So it can be tailored to do quite a good lot of things. So ChatGPT Plus has some specialized tools. Plus is the paid version, which takes $20 per month to give you access to GPT-4 and few other tailored GPTs. So for research and analysis, as I was looking through the list, the type of available tools are consensus. So there is a ranking provided in terms of popularity. So if somebody wants to do research and analysis using a tailored ChatGPT on its backend, there is a ranking of tools depending on people's rating of that app. Yeah, so consensus was on the top list. On the second of the list was a Scholar GPT. And these platforms, like tailored GPTs, have something additional to the normal GPT. So I just showed you that GPT-4 has access to data until April 2023. So Consensus added additional access to the research papers up until that time, let's say training time. So you can get summaries of research outputs quite easily from that tool. So there is a list of things, and I can quickly show you when I go onto the demo stage. So under tailored GPTs, you can have, let's say, specialized function on various things. So if you want to use it for journalism research or legal research, there are specific GPTs. People with relevant expertise has added some additional information to the GPT models to make it more tailored to the need of the domain. And the way to judge whether this GPT is actually good enough is you would see that there is, let's say, 1K plus user, or this tool has a 5K user, or in this space, though the top ranked one as a legal plus, the more user for the platform was, let's say, in here. So when choosing your tool, or if you went for a paid version, choose a tool that has been tested by more users than if you see somebody, one of the platform has been tested by only 300 users or so on. Your, let's say, ranking should be based on the user feedback that has been given to that specific GPT. Okay, let me quickly move on to GPT's paid version to show you what you can do on those platforms. So the way you would find the tailored GPT, currently I moved on to explore GPTs and I'm moving on to research and analysis. I do have the ranking for various platforms. So when I click on it, it says that it had a rating out of 5, 4.3. Currently it's ranked 1 in the space. 4 million conversation has been done to this interface already. So if I say I want to start chat with consensus, it will give me an GPT-like interface. So currently it's saying me that I'm a research assistant. I do have access to 200 million academic papers, and I can do science-based answers. I could draft content with accurate citations. So the advantage with this tool is it has access to real research papers. With GPT, it has a tendency to hallucinate. It would make up references, sources, and so on, which did not make it suitable for fact-based research purposes. But with consensus, you do have access to real research papers. So let's say I'm a researcher in, let's say, data science for electronic health records, and my area of interest is, let's say, multimorbidity. So if I say, give me a summary of recent research papers on, let's say, multimorbidity, morbidity using electronic health records. So it's connecting to the consensus app on the back end to provide me some recent studies. The first one it has picked out is a paper from 2020. It's also giving me the link of, let's say, where to find that paper. And as a researcher, it's very important, whatever it has written in this section, not to blindly trust it. You need to go cross-verify everything that it has produced for that specific section. So in here, it's, let's say, producing the list, and currently the template, its limit is it's giving me 5 specific papers. It has given me something from 2021, 2020, something from 2022, but I'm not seeing anything from, let's say, 2023 or 2024. So given the fact that, is it letting me click? Yeah. So if I go over there, it's also possible to, let's say, find out the DOI. And if you are using a reference manager, you can list it and add it to a specific section. And the ethical way of, let's say, progressing with this list is it has given me some background and useful and relevant literature for my literature search and so on. Then I can move on to, and it has one more thing that it has also done is it has tried to group together the papers under various headlines. So if you want to see into the predictors of, let's say, high care needs of multimorbid patients, if you want to look into the trajectories of disease accumulation, so it has done quite a good job in terms of identifying some themes. So if I go on to Google Scholar now, let's say if I want to look into, do a search term of, okay, I want to look for assessment tools for multimorbidity. So let me quickly go on to Google Scholar. And let me paste, I want to look into the assessment tool for multimorbidity. Let's say the assessment tool, tool for multimorbidity. I could very quickly update my literature. So it has given me things until 2022. I can see that what publications are there since 2023, 2024. And I can see, assess that, like what other papers could be relevant in the space. I can update my list of literature and update it then I'm doing the hard work of, let's say, looking into the literature, updating my list. And it makes it ethical in the way that I've used AI to speed up my search terms, or like do the little bit of background summary on until the data set has access to. Then I just added on, augmented my literature with the recent aspect of things. Yeah. So I'm stopping sharing here because I probably do have screenshots, and we are 10, let's say 5 minutes to 11. Should we give it a break for about 10 minutes? I'll pick up on the slides after that. Rachel? Okay, so I was showing you consensus app which has access to a large database, research databases, which you could start your, let's say, building the base for your literature review and so on. Then you can augment it to include newer resources yourself, and it's kind of ethical to use. So I realized that I was showing the use of consensus from ChatGPT. Plus, most of you may not have access to it, but consensus has its own website as well, where you could register and try out the tool for yourself. And people that uses Microsoft Office nowadays, I don't think they can do literature review for us, but there are quite a good of, let's say, uh, uh, functionalities that you can use for from the Microsoft Office's tools. So Office 365 has an editor included within it nowadays. So if you go onto the review panel and if you go onto the editor, you would see that it has functionalities such as spelling checking, grammar check. It can also change the formality of tone that you are using. It can make your text more inclusive. There are few other things such as, let's say, similarity to online sources and other tools that you could quite easily get access to. Grammarly is a free tool for some of the functionalities, but its paid version has, let's say, access to a number of other features that are quite useful in terms of, let's say, uh, producing a professional quality draft in terms of, let's say, the tone that you're using, whether it's appropriate for academic submission and that sort. And it has included something called acknowledge Grammarly Gen AI use. So it will provide you some example text in the disclaimer if you have used it and how to frame it in a specific way. Consensus API, I did the demo already, but for you, I do have a few slides. So consensus.app is the interface where you can go to and try it out if you do not have ChatGPT. Plus, I'm assuming most of you may not have it. And you can try out on your specific topic to probably build the initial base. And if you like it, you could probably go for a paid version. But I think you could even tailor part of ChatGPT's free version if you do the prompt engineering well enough to fine-tune your source of knowledge. So in the space of using AI tools for the research space, I do have a slide where I do have some example prompts. These questions are specific to the research area that I work on, but you could have a sample of what could you ask. So let's say for literature review, you can say that I want to review the literature for AI models predicting cardiovascular diseases. And I'm also giving it a timeline. Okay, I want to see the papers from 2017. I don't want to see anything older. Or for testing or hypothesis, okay, if I say that, okay, I want to investigate the effectiveness of machine learning algorithms to identify depression in people that are suffering from chronic illness. Or there are methodological explorations. So for you, I do have some example prompts that you can try. So I'm not spending too much time on it unless you have got a question on it. Okay, so for consensus, I do have some screenshots of what type of output it gave us. I showed you that we moved on to Google Scholar to expand the list that it provided and augment our search and make it faster than it usually will be. And you can also ask it to suggest some new research angles to the topic. So as a researcher, when I formulated my research question, I do have my personal bias and I do have limited amount of knowledge on the topic. You can use AI tools to give you few other angles on the research topic that you are using. I oftentimes work in multidisciplinary team. So I'm a computer scientist at the moment, but if I want to look into the social scientist perspective on a specific topic, I could prepare myself well enough before I go to meet a social scientist to discuss about the same thing. So it would prepare me, let's say, rather than going clueless, I would have some knowledge around that. So there is some more tailored prompt example I've included in this chat, and I think you could use it in the ChatGPT's free version, but the free version is trained until I think February 2022. So its knowledge base is far less advanced than the GPT-4's version. And this prompt I'm taking from a LinkedIn learning course by Dave Burse, I think. So he created a quite interesting prompt on, okay, I want you to be an expert researcher. And it is using a specific sentence, let's say specific part of the sentence that, okay, I want you to create something unusual. So in our prompt revision thing, we had something called, I want you to give me novel and unusual thing. So this prompt encoded that fact that, okay, give me information that is not usually available. I want you to suggest 5 studies that could be done or to discover facts on a topic. So your topic could be something. And because, as I said, I work on healthcare data domain. So my question could be something like this, that I wanted to look for multimorbidity and its impact on various other factors. And the output from ChatGPT gave me 5 study titles that what I can work on. So longitudinal analysis of lifestyle factors contributing to multimorbidity in older adults. I also tried to give me some hypotheses. What are the things that I should be looking at? What type of methodology could be useful in the domain? So I was using consensus for this one because it has access to papers. So you can then expand on, okay, give me some supporting literature for this specific methodology and so on. Okay, so as I said, Claude and ChatGPT have document analysis functionality. So though the knowledge base of these AI assistants may not hold contents from 2024 or something, you could upload a paper from 2024 and use the AI to give you summarize the findings from those, or if you have a specific question answering that you wanted to let's say, find out a specific section on how they did their data analysis, or what are the key findings from this paper. Those sort of things could be automated. I think Claude's free version has access to the data upload facility. ChatGPT's Plus version has access to it, but the free version does not allow you uploading the content yet. But you could definitely paste, let's say, 4,096 words and uh, do the manual work of, let's say, separately processing various sections or sections of your interest. There is a free tool. It's not a free tool, it has a paid version, but it has some free facilities. So Elicit is a platform that you can use to, let's say, do literature review. You can use it for hypothesis generation. You can also use it for summarization and analysis. So when you log in, it gives you 5,000 credits, which is about 100 different search on the interface. So let's say I pasted that I analyzed the role of malnutrition and diet in the development of multimorbidity. I say that, okay, limit your search to the last 5 years. So this platform has access to, I think, very recent databases of research papers. So it identified me 60 research papers and it found, let's say, 108 different concepts in those 60 papers. And it has created me a list of the concepts on the left side. So the impact of nutrient deficiency on multimorbidity. It gave me some sources. The sources were not very new, but the concepts could be quite useful in formulating your search terms. That what do you want to look in terms of, like, what do you want to search on? And as you would see on the screenshot that I'm showing in here, there is a CSV download option that comes with a paid version. But in any case, if you do want to start with short searches, which doesn't require you to look into all the 108 concepts in the topic, it might be too much to handle in a go. But if you have some tailored, limited concepts that you want to expand your idea on, this platform could be quite useful. As I said, when you log for its free version, it gives you 5,000 credits to do, I think, about 100 searches in terms of the content that you're looking for. In here, I have added a video on its overall functionalities. I want you to look at it on your own time. But whoever was presenting it has given a quite good demonstration on how to use it effectively and how to, whatever list it has provided, how to expand your question based on that to speed up the learning process. Okay. There is another platform called S-Site, which also allows you some free access for a little bit of time, but you will get a feel of what it can do. So sometimes, let's say you are claiming that, okay, from my research, I think people with because I'm talking about multimorbidity in my research field. I'm talking that, okay, people that has poor diet or who are malnourished develop diseases quicker than the other group of patients. So I'm claiming that, okay, people that do not have good diet is suffering more. So you may, in the world of academic research, you can't say anything without any evidence. So if you want to find relevant references to support your claim, you need some supporting literature who is saying the same. So a site is a platform which you could definitely use to find out. So you have a claim, you paste that claim and find talked about it and so on. So a site is another platform I think you could it's from the same presenter that I was taking the video for Elicit. And she has done a good job in terms of, let's say, what's useful on the platform and how to use it effectively in terms of to let's say, make your life slightly easier in terms of finding literature and grouping them in useful and meaningful sections. Uh, Here is a video from, I think is Professor David Stuckler, a professor from USA, who has done a quite good view, let's say, summary of what tools you have available from various platforms. He was using ChatGPT Plus, but the platform I was using Consensus to show you to develop the literature. He's using something called Research GPT to display how to use it effectively, where AI is doing work for you, but you are the brain behind that literature search. So his talk in here how to automate your literature review ethically using ChatGPT. So I found it quite useful and informative. And if you want to look into a slightly longer detail on how to move from starting to, okay, this is my research area, how I should find out the concepts and how should I build my literature and how you should formulate the writing of it. So he covered all of the stages, starting from find your research question, develop your literature, formulate the themes and so on. So he has done it step by step. I think it would be quite useful if you're interested in the process.
Again, stay tuned for more comment like this. You've requested it from me and delivering it to you. By the way, I'm going to look forward to seeing you in the next video.
And the funny bit is, because AI can do a lot of things, I would say don't use the content as it is. This week, I saw something very interesting. So a paper from Elsevier, the link is in here. I don't know whether I should share it with you or write to the office that they have a paper where there is something called, okay, it's a paper published in an Elsevier journal on radiology case reports, and they pasted something from ChatGPT straight away. And just before the conclusion of thing, they had a section where it says, as I'm a language model, I can provide general information about managing hepatic artery, portal vein, and so on. And it's published and out in the internet now. So the funny bit is there were 8 authors on the paper from, let's say, there was someone from Harvard School of Medicine or something. They pasted something on, like, they didn't even do basic proofreading. We don't want to be that user of AI tools. It has passed through the peer review process of the Elsevier's, let's say, peer review process. And it could be that the reviewers are using AI tools nowadays, which we don't want to do because we want the academic integrity intact in when we are producing various things. So I would say if you're in the academic space, I want you to use it for supportive purposes only, not as the main content creator at all. Yeah. So the fact that somehow this paper has not been redacted or revised yet, it's published for 3 weeks before. We don't want to be that blind or blatant user of AI. So that's my key message to you. Use it to probably speed up the process of your content generation, but don't use it blatantly. Last week, one of the participants was asking what is the best tool for data analysis in the AI space. I say that Excel has some automated chart recommendation tools integrated within it, but I would like to quickly show you, let's say, the data analysis functionality ChatGPT is making available via the code interpreter. And it can do various types of text processing, including text file, image file, document, code, data, audio, and video, but it doesn't work equally well on all file types. Performance varies significantly between tasks and depends on the provided input and instructions. And I could quickly go onto my ChatGPT to show you what other things that it can do, or I could, for time's point of view, if I want to save some time, I could probably go on to a history of chat if I have it. Where did my browser go? It has decided to hide itself. Across Firefox is gone. Sorry, guys, I'm not finding my browser. Maybe reload. So while I'm finding my browser, so the data analysis interface is quite useful in the fact, where did it go? Let me do a quick screen share, that would be easier. So I think there is a data analyst, and I did a basic search on a student performance CSV. So as I gave you access to the Google Drive, you would see that there is a study performance CSV file that I gave you. So I say that, okay, it's an interface for data analyst, and you would see that with the paid version, you do have access to attachment function to the window, and you would see that you could upload any file that you want. We talked about the supported file types that you can use, and it managed to look into the features that are available onto the interface. I also asked it like what sort of data insight I can generate from this specific field. So it says that you could, because it's a student data set, it said you could look into the performance analysis based on gender. You can also look into the impact of test preparation, code, socio-economic factors, and so on, parental education level impact. You could also plot some graphs using that. So if I say that, can you produce a visualization for this section? So it would try to do a visualization, but like over the weekend, I saw it sometimes fails depending on the high usage time or something. So it said error analyzing in this case. But what it was trying to do on the back end is it has loaded the data file it had, and it has provided an average score by gender. So it has given you access to the code that you can run onto your interface, depending on what whether you are a Python programmer or you are an R programmer or MATLAB or what sort. So in case it fails to give you a specific output, what you could do is you take in the specific section of the data, section of the code, run it on its backend and so on. So I would say that it was not very reliable from my week of testing on the interface and so on. And there is a limit on the size of the files as well. I think it can't deal with data until 50 megabytes or something. So it can do quite a lot when it's functioning, but I saw that it throws an error analyzing exception quite frequently the week that I tested it on. Okay. So let me quickly go back to my slide. And I do have a screenshot in terms of like what the outputs were looking like. And if I can move on to... So I have also included a link to a tutorial where this person
becoming a data analyst used to
displayed the steps that you need to do in terms of like when you how to upload file, what sort of analysis they can do on their specific data cases. So I think like it would be able to give you kind of step-by-step analysis aspect of it quite easily. And I thought it would probably be more useful as a data analyst is to see the backend code or backend code for running the data analysis rather than blindly giving an AI tool on what to do. If you know what to do yourself is a far better option as a researcher, I would say. So you could also have some sample discussions. So I struggled with uploading the data over the weekend. There is another way you could allow the AI tool to have access to the data. If you have a, let's say, comma separated file and you can paste the data, like initial portion of the data to get the insight from the data. Okay, these are the types of analysis I can do on this data according to the AI. Then you expand it on the full data set that you want to work on. You can also have some sample discussions sections. So let's say you have done your research, you have, let's say in here, I'm showing 5 machine learnings that has been built for, let's say, a user's quality of experience in watching videos. And we built a classifier to see, okay, if the sensor data is like this and the user is having a bad experience, good experience, and so on. So you have your tabular results, and I had them on LaTeX, so I copied and pasted over, and I said that, okay, can you do a comparative study on the 5 models result from various sections? So it tried to use the data to populate me a section on, and okay, do some comparative analysis on, okay, 2 models showcased excellent precision, recall, and it has managed to include, like, put in the data from this table quite accurately. Again, this is an AI tool. You need to make sure whatever you are putting in your research papers is well proofread, and you verify what's being included in those papers. We don't want to be an author who is using AI tools blatantly and blindly. And I think that was the bit that I had for academic writing. The next use case I'm moving on to is writing for businesses. And today we do have a number of types of writing you can do if you are running a business or if you're part of a business. And the first type of writing, which would require quite a good sort of professional level of accuracy and let's say presentation, is business plans and proposals. So I would cover a little bit of what to include in those plans. And I do have a table for you to look at your own time in terms of whether you can use AI to automate this specific plans and proposal, where you are outlining business model, strategy, financials for investors or loans. The potential for using AI is moderate to high. You can use it to create your draft, but the human review for adding specifics about your business is up on your hand. Technical writing, such as manual guides or descriptions for technical products or services, you could probably automate it. You can use it AI for with a high automation potential. AI is very good in producing systematic, let's say, structured documents. So for marketing and content writing, you could have the template ready, first draft ready quite quickly using AI tools because they have access to large amount of similar documents. Whatever it would produce is somewhat sensible, but again, you are the one who would be tailoring it according to your needs. So I do have quite an extensive list of things with a table saying that what is the purpose of that document and whether you can use AI to generate those. So currently, for the example, I'm not moving on to the interface again, considering that we may run out of time given the amount of slides I have. I'm discussing based on the screenshots that I have on the slide. So currently I said, okay, can you create me a full plan for effective business? I wanted to create a business plan, create me a full business plan for a fictitious company. So it says that, okay, it's a startup named DataWise Solutions, and it created an executive summary for what they want to do, what problem they are solving, like what solutions this company is bringing to the market. In the business plan, they also included market analysis, business model, implementation plan, and so on. So AI tool was, so this is a follow-up prompt, I think. I had an initial prompt where I said, okay, I want to create a business plan for a company that uses AI solutions for urban planning. So those are the contexts I have given before asking it to create me a full plan for a fictitious company. And it also did a quite good breakdown in terms of, let's say, financial projection, risk analysis, funding requirements. Oftentimes, when you're submitting a business proposal or that sort of document, you also need to create a justification of cost document. And in case you are struggling in terms of what other elements you should include in your costing and so on, as an initial startup at the beginning level, you might be somewhat worried about, let's say, whether you have included all the things that are necessary in your costing and so on. I think AI tools does a fairly good job in identifying what are the things you need for specific companies. And in a normal human's world, what you would do, you'd talk to somebody who has gone through the path that you are going through before, and you would ask advice. AI can be that advice giving person in some cases nowadays. And if you have access to people, always reach out to people. But AI tools can give you some fair justification and fair guidance on what should be included in various aspects of things. AI could be used in changing the tone of content for different funding applications. And you would see that, okay, I do have an example where I'm saying that, okay, if you're applying for a government funding, the way you would write to that government funding organization would be different if we're asking for funding from a charity or philanthropic philanthropic organization for funding. So for government funding, your tone would be formal or data-driven. And in here, you would say that I'm writing to apply for a specific grant. And you would also want to keep the formality in terms of what solution that you're bringing and so on. For philanthropic funding, your tone needs to change in a way that, let's say, how your product is going to impact the wider community in terms of well-being, sustainability, and that sort. And your writing style could be, so let's say as a application, when you're preparing your application, if you want to go for multiple funding sources, you could use AI to help you write it in the right tone quite easily, I would say. Another thing is quite important. I currently apply for funding in the UK. I don't know how funding works in the other parts of the world, but it's very important to, let's say, tailor your application to fit the funder's requirement. So tailor your application to fit a specific funding call. So the way you could incorporate what the funder is looking for and add the bits and pieces in the description that you're producing, you would usually see that when you are applying for a funder, you definitely need to read carefully that why they are calling for, let's say, asking for application for this funding. Look into their objectives, eligibility criteria, thematic areas of interest, any specific challenges as problems that the funder is trying to solve. So you can pick out those keywords, and depending on what you have written, you can embed those quite easily if you're using specific AI tools. And if you can engineer the prompt well enough, you could automate part of that and save some time for you. Last week, we learned a framework called reverse prompting. It could be useful for cracking an elevated pitch example if you like. So sometimes for the funders, or when you are going to networking sessions for a specific, let's say, funding bodies, people do elevated pitch where they prepare a 30-second thing to say that, okay, I do this, these are the main useful things, and so on. And you could make AI to reverse engineer a good pitch. So I do have a slide example for you. So this is a slide. If you have attended last week, you probably have seen it already, but if you're joining new this week. So what I said AI to do is, I say that you're a prompt engineering expert. I want you to reverse engineer this prompt based on the text that I provided to you. So I'll give it a good example of a specific prompt. And I told it to analyze the text that I provided to you and identify the tone, style, syntax, and language, or any other factors you think to be relevant. And this is a prompt formula that you could copy. Currently, I said, okay, if we want to try reverse engineer Airbnb's elevated pitch, so it's a pitch from 2009, quite an old one, but it was a good one. So Airbnb is a company that rents, let's say, people's houses when they are not being used. And their pitch was like this, that most tourists booking online who are booking online, they care about price, and hotels are one of the highest cost when they were traveling. On the other hand, platforms like Couchsurfing have proven over 500,000 are willing to lend their couches or spare bedrooms. So whatever it was, if you provide this amount of text with the prompt that I shared in the previous slide, you could reverse engineer that, like what are the interesting things that has been included in that specific content, and you can apply the same sort of instruction to a pitch probably have written for your own company and make it more engaging, or make it reach to the audience in a better manner. There is another type of prompting framework that we covered last week, is called constructive prompting. Let's say you have written something for your pitch, or it could be something for a funding application, and you want to get suggestion or feedback from the AI tool. So currently you are saying that I want you to act as an expert depending on what content you're writing on. You can mention, okay, I'm a biologist, or I'm a computer scientist. Criticize my content, paste it below, convince me why it's bad. And you also want it to help you in the writing process. So we are saying, give me constructive criticism on how it should be improved. So for some context, the example that I was giving last week was, if it's a product or service, and I'm creating this context for people, And the purpose of the content is to, let's say, increase the sales for that specific product. And you want it to like think step by step and address each piece of content individually. And you paste the content within that formula, and it's able to identify like what's the problem with the current content, and would provide you some suggestions of how you could improve it by adding various aspects to it. So as I said, it's a fact-based field, and every company has its own description. So prompting the right way with the right details for company would be the key to produce, like making AI to give you something sensible out of it. I do have a few more slides here where, let's say, I've taken this example from another source, but the image I have generated using DALL-E. So it could be that, let's say, you are a business, you're planning to start a business and you are unsure of various things. And in the space of, if you want to use AI to give you clues on various things, you could start asking questions like this. So this example is somebody is opening a coffee shop, and he's planning to sell various items like drinks, breakfast, and lunch. And he is trying to think about 10 questions before he can open his coffee shop. So the type of things ChatGPT outputted is, okay, you do a market research. Who is my target demographic? And the second question it asked you to think about is location and real estate, menu and product selection, planning for the finances, regulations, design, and atmosphere. So in case you are starting from scratch, you may be unsure of various things because, as I said, ChatGPT have access to large data sets, so it has seen wide variety of examples. It can do fairly good job in terms of like what are the things that will be needed. So you could ask the system to do some follow-up questions. Okay, can you expand on the what location will be best for my coffee shop? And how I will evaluate potential sites. So it said that there are some evaluation criteria and some considerations. So depending on what your target market is, you could choose a specific type of location. You could analyze the foot traffic. So you could look for where people are coming and going more. So consider visibility, accessibility, evaluate the competition. So when you're choosing your location, see whether there is more other coffee shops that are there to compete with you. So most of them are kind of sensible suggestions. I talked about prompt revision. If you don't like any of it, you can ask it to produce unusual and novel content, and you could tailor it to give you some suggestions. It's more of a brainstorming without the judgment from another person. Okay, you're asking unnecessary questions, or you are worrying about a lot of things. Like as entrepreneurs, people do worry a lot. And I think the AI tools have quite a good amount of capacity to handle some layman level questions very well. And there are some custom GPTs that can be used to do market research. So before you start your business, it could be quite important to know who your competitors are, what are the things that are available. So you could use specific GPTs for that specific purpose. And I think, what's the time? 43, good timing. So I could take some questions from you now, if you have any on the chat.
Yeah, we've got a question from Intias, who's asked the same question a couple of times in slightly different ways, but basically he asks, when we're using AI for writing, how do you manage that work being rejected, saying you've copied or plagiarized? And the example he's given is if he's using it for, like, scholarship applications where they say put a 300-word answer in. What would be your guidance for how much of that text to change and perhaps replace with other wording?
I think you definitely need to do so. Let's say, as I said, one of the best prompt revision is give me unusual words. You don't want to produce something that's mass produced. So if you're asking the question with a very simple question, give me a section, and you saw that there is a box in the scholarship form and it produced some tailored, let's say generic things. Okay, I can do this, that, and so on. Nowadays, any of the assessment tools have an AI detector associated to it. And you as an individual definitely need to stand out when you're applying for applications. So you can use it for ideation purposes. Okay, people are writing this or that, but I think you definitely need to tailor it to your own, let's say, presentation, truthful presentation of yourself. So
Yeah.
something that looks very generic is not representing you in the right way. You definitely need to bring the personal touch. And as I said, even in the olden days, 30% similarity to something else were acceptable. I don't think that the threshold is much lower nowadays. If anything looks more than, let's say, 15, 20%, they are not accepting that content as original content. You could speed up your process, get your ideas from it, but I would say you as a human is the best presenter for your content.
Yeah, and the best way to stand out and make that impact, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Adima asks, what about AI for fictional writing?
So day 2 is dedicated to fictional writing and some legal writing. So today, because academic writing took quite a good lot of time, I have a specific section for creating writing tomorrow. Please join tomorrow.
Yes, we'll look at that tomorrow. Agiliance asks, how would I judge the uniqueness of blog content created by an AI tool?
Like if you're working in the industry, you would definitely spot something that looks very generic. And let's say AI also uses some of the terms quite frequently. Like it says like delve into this, dive into this, leveraging the aspect of you. So when you see the wordings of that sort, I spot them quite easily nowadays. And as I said, if you are a blog content creator, you would feel as a human that this is engaging, this is not unique, this is not sounding special to me. So you from the domain expert would be the best judge of what's looking good or bad. And it's also good to see some good examples. And when I taught reverse engineering last week, my objective is to, you as a user know what's looking compelling to you. You can try reverse engineer that text to identify what are the things that has been included that made it unique or compelling. Yeah. So if you know the same points for your own product or for your own article, and I think in that case, you could be the best judge, I would say. Yeah.
I completely agree with you to mean when I've looked at blog posts in particular, you can see that the structure's great, but you can see where there's repetition and word repetition. It's quite, you start to get an eye for it, definitely. And Sidra asks, is there any free tool for data analysis other than Chat GPT-4?
So it depends on whether you're a programmer or not. So I think if you're a programmer, Python programmer, those are all open source tools, and there is quite very good documentation available on the world. You can use ChatGPT to produce the analysis code for you. There is another platform called Orange 3, which is an open source tool, but if you are not a programmer, I think that's a tool. That's a tool that you could use to do some of the graphical data analysis. And it's a free tool, open source tool, but it can do quite a bit of analysis for you.
Brilliant. So
What's the time?
3.
10 minutes.
10
I could
minutes.
probably quickly give you a look into the interface if time allows me. About 10 minutes. Okay, I could probably do it. Or you could look it up, and it has a quite good documentation, and they do have a YouTube channel that you can follow in terms of, oh no, my loading is taking too long. So have a look into that too.
And what about confidential data? Question from Marat. Can we upload confidential data to ChatGPT or any other AI tool for consultation? As far as I know, Bing AI provides this kind of security.
So with ChatGPT, currently they do have a section where you can tell it not to use your data for training. So if you select that option, it's safer than to use confidential data on the interface. But as a user, you have to make sure you have ticked that box that you have not given OpenAI the right to deal with your data separately.
Yeah. Ennis asks, are there any techniques to learn if someone has used AI within a text?
Can you expand a little bit? What are the
Ennis, do you want to unmute yourself? Do you mean techniques to be able to spot people using AI or something else?
Yes, so her question I'm assuming her, but
Yeah. So
okay.
Ennis, I think Ennis is asking, how can we spot it if it's what
Okay,
are the telltale signs?
currently in UK universities we have tools like Turnitin. Office 365 has a thing on similarity detection with other sources. Grammarly has an AI detector to identify. So most of the commercial tools that are being used for assessing people's application and let's say assessments or let's say exam scripts and so on has a AI detection tool integrated with them. So in the UK, we can very easily spot them when I see them. And sometimes if, as I said, people has blatantly copied the structure from an AI tool, you can see that the bullet points are coming in the same way, or you would see that the repetitive use of some words you get used to it once you see a lot of AI generated content. And as I said, in most of the professional environment, there are AI detectors integrated with the assessment tools nowadays. Okay.
Super. Do we have any more questions from anyone? You can either unmute yourself or write a question in the chat. Any more questions at all?
So if there is no more question, let me summarize today's session. Nope, I've gone to the beginning. Okay, so summary for today is you need to be aware of the limitations of the fact that these are algorithms. They are powerful machines, but they're limited by the data that they have seen during their training phase. So if the data that they used for training is some way biased, you would probably be propagating that bias if you're blatantly using it. So my suggestion is use it as an assistive tool, not as your main content creator. You have to be in the loop as a human to moderate that content and be the true representative of the content that you want to send out to the world as your content. Yeah. So embracing AI abilities, as I said, focus on editing and revising, create AI generated content, and then heavily edit and revise output. And you need to emphasize, we need to emphasize on the fact that you as a human definitely need the skill of critical thinking and analysis in the writing process. So the reason for me repeating the reverse prompting and constructive prompting is you teach yourself like what's making it better than my previous version. If I change something, whether it's good enough now, you used it as a progressive learning process rather than telling that, okay, give me a modified version. You use the tool to identify the problems with your current text and use it to improve your skills rather than making the AI to generate the content for you. Yeah. So what's coming tomorrow? So we would be looking into AI for legal writing for some contracts research and preparation of for cases. Brief example on journalism use cases, and whoever came for the session for creative writing, we would be covering quite a bit on creative writing and what tools we can use to help the writers with their content development and so on. And the final section would be something on customer support email, product description, and user personas, part of which I covered last week, but we have new examples this week. If you want to stay along for that bit, you can, but if you attended last week, I think the last bit could be repetitive for you. Yeah. So thank you all very much for your time and patience to listen to me. And if we have 5 more minutes. If I've got more questions, I can take them now, or we could say goodbye for today.
There were a couple of questions.
Okay.
One from Alliance. Can you suggest a good source to learn reverse engineering? That was the first question.
I think, I don't know whether you have access to LinkedIn learning courses. There is a course by Dave Burse who expands quite a bit in terms of how to reverse engineer content, or you can ask Google that, okay, like what are the best tips and to reverse engineer a piece of content and create. You want to capture the goodness of that good example, but you don't want to copy it as it is. So the formula that I have in my slide works quite well, but there are definitely few other examples you would definitely find over Google. And as I say, there is 2-3 very good LinkedIn learning courses that expands on it longer and with 5-6 different types of example.
Super. And final question for today is from Emily. What do you think are the jobs in the industry that are going to vanish through AI and LLM?
Okay, so for tomorrow's slide, I do actually have a slide where, like, on 27th of March, there was a Guardian article saying that 8 million jobs in the UK are going to be vanished. So if I quickly find out my slide for that, I can share it with you in terms of like what I think about it. Ideally, I think AI will take some jobs, definitely in terms of the automation world and so on, but people that knows how to AI would replace the people that do not know AI. There would be a lot more new jobs that will be created because there is changing need of the world in terms of AI. So let me quickly see whether I can share my screen again. Today I'm struggling a little bit in terms of where my control things are. So is it the slide for this one? So this is one of the ending slide for tomorrow. So we had a news article that said, and that if I can zoom a little bit, my screen share is on covered under that. So it said that AI apocalypse could take away almost 8 million jobs in the UK. And they say that anything that required content creation that was repetitive. So let's say there would be someone at the court that would be writing what the proceeding is happening in the courtroom or so on. We do have tools that can do transcription, and transcription would produce digitalized version of what's being said in the room. Those are the fields which would be affected by the automation of it. But my opinion is AI never will replace human. You cannot get the creativity that the humans are offering, or humans do process things from multiple dimensions together. People has amazing brains to, let's say, do multiple things. They have human errors, definitely, but I don't think AI is ever going to replace human jobs. Some of the things that can be automatically done, the AI will save time for those job domains. And using AI yet is to upscale their game, do the same job with the help of AI. Faster and better would be the way to move forward. So there is a video from Harvard Business Review. They say the AI won't replace human, but humans with AI will replace humans without AI. Yeah,
That's
does that
super.
answer the question?
Great, thank you. And thank you everybody for coming to day one. Look forward to seeing you all tomorrow at the same time. Happy Saturday to all of you for the rest of the day. And thank you again very, very much to Mina for today's session. I
Okay.
look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Bye
Okay.
everyone.
See you all tomorrow. Thanks very much.
Bye. Thank you.